Have you ever not got the results that you wanted? Maybe you questioned why things didn't go your way. You pointed the finger, you casted out blame, or maybe if you were being self-aware, you looked inward. Where can you take ownership? Were your hands too tight on the wheel? Did you need to let go? Did you need to be free? What is your mode of life transportation? And I know what you're thinking. Your mind immediately went to the mode of transportation that you use for your commute. That's not what I mean. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mode of transportation that you use in pursuit of your life's purpose. Still not understanding what I mean? Are you somebody that likes to be in control? Are you somebody that likes to be in cruise control with somebody else or something driving you down the tracks? Or do you dare to be free? Free as a bird, as a plane, taking you wherever your momentum allows. Journeys of transportation, they oftentimes can be very unexpected with a lot of twists and turns, with the unknown, of course. But sometimes when we get close to that finish line, it is then that we realize what lies ahead. We start to realize that those experiences of crossing the finish line really are only worthwhile if we do them with others, if we bring people along for the ride with the experience of the life that we're living. I want to take you on a journey with me really quick. When we last saw each other 2 years ago, my wife and I were in the midst. We were in a season. The season of 4.5 years of infertility. 10 lost embryos. Over 615 shots. But we maintain perspective that life is about the journey. You see, we thought we had reached our destination every time that we struck out or we saw failure. Little did we know we were still in the midst of our journey to our destination. Looking back with something now to show for it, it was worth every bit the wait. Our daughter, Hayden Catherine Hargrave, was born March 29th, 2023, after 41 hours of labor. Honestly, the first time that I got to hold and touch my daughter, it quite literally was the most unexplainable feeling in the world. It changed everything for me. For those of you that have ever dealt with a Hargrave, or mainly as Hargrave men, I'd imagine this is probably what you're like on the inside, just kicking, yelling, and screaming, just to get away from us. And I get it, you husbands out there, you're probably in the crowd thinking you're the strong one in your relationship. Truthfully, I laugh at you. There's a reason we were never intended to give birth. Have you ever seen me get sick as early as last week? My man flu is real. It feels worse than giving birth, if I'm honest. And yes, this is me complaining, and yes, that is our daughter surrounded by 615 shots that were put into my wife's flesh. I will tell you this, getting to that destination had never been so sweet. But I had to change my mode of transportation to the process to get through the journey. You see, I was trying to take too much control. I had my hands on 10 and 2, trying to control the uncontrollable, and it was getting us nowhere. I needed to let go. I needed to let life and God do what they do. This is my story of transportation. Life is not a destination, it's a journey. And sometimes you must take the tough path, the tough road, or the unconventional transportation to get to where you want to be. So how about us as a collective? We kick off the next phase of our life with the final goal already in our sights. And I know, and I've said this to my staff, my team, that life is more about the journey than it is about the destination. But what I'm focusing on here is simply just a starting point. And here's what I mean. We often get bogged down in the how are we going to do things, the how of our plans, to the point where we talk ourselves out of things before we even get started. What if instead we began with a clear vision of what we wanted to achieve in our lives? I believe that our dedication to the vision, our purpose, coupled with the support around us, will propel us forward through sheer perseverance. This is how life will naturally fall into place, guided by either our innate tendencies or our conscious adapted methods of moving forward. You see, a famous author once said, instead of having your first thoughts go to, what if I fail? Have them instead go to, what will it feel like when I succeed? If we make that one change, our life will be nothing short of extraordinary miracles. And I know this because we let our emotions and our circumstances overcome us. That ultimately dictates who we are in a particular moment. I mean, if you're an amputee, it would be hard not to think about being able to paint your toes again, or to slide your feet through the sand and feel it. Or you can rechange that thought to smell the ocean breeze instead of focusing on the sand. Or maybe it's the ideas of friends and camaraderie around you. And it bars questioning to all of us. What is it that we are focusing on amid our circumstance? What we have or what we don't? Is it the physical acts, the things that we once physically did that we miss about our previous life or what we used to do? Or is it the feelings that the physical acts gave us? Was it the actual physical act of walking? Or the feeling that walking gave us? It's the beauty that we choose to see around us that's gone missing in the world, not the things that once were. I let my accident break me and piece me back together. However, there's been so much humiliation, internal battles, criticalness of myself, that I piece myself back together now how I want to. The character that was once created by others has now been rewritten by me. And I'm taking ownership of how I write my story and how this story ends. And I won't let anybody take that away from me. Throughout the process, though, of my rebuilding, I've had to think about this. What would be the most successful modes of transportation to get me to my destinations? What is your mode of travel to reach your dreams and to fulfill your life purpose? Do you like to travel by plane? To be a free spirit gliding through the air, limitless, maybe controlled by the wind, in any direction that life might take you? I was on a plane recently, and it was in that moment that I realized sometimes my greatest moments in life are taking in the bird's eye view and looking at my work from afar and from above, free and limitless. Maybe you like to travel on ground, on the tracks, by train. To be guided, to not deviate, to be by the book. I was out on a train with my wife for a fun night heading to downtown Pasadena, and it was then that I realized that we arrived at our destination with no awareness on our behalf. I blinked and we were there. It was almost like autopilot took me there. Some cybernetic mechanism knew to keep us on the tracks, and we just showed up. There was no deviation. It was by the books. It was calculated and precise, but I was not in control. Or do you like to travel by wheels? For me, the wheelchair. For you, the car. Where you can control the narrative one turn at a time. You see, I come from a car family, dating back to my grandparents. I love cars, not for what they symbolize materially, but what they symbolize in terms of love and restoration and art and mechanics and engineering. I love cars so much, I've introduced my 1-year-old daughter to cars at a very young age. My wife and I took her to Formula One in Vegas back in November, and I know what you're thinking. Why would you take a 7-year-old or 7-month-old to Vegas? Nonetheless, when we came back from there, she was making noises like revving sounds of a car, and I knew she was all in. She kind of did something like this.
Hey, what does a car say? How does it go?
This got me to thinking about the type of freedom that I feel when I'm driving in my vehicle. 10 and 2, of course. And if you've ever driven by me and you've copped me a wave, don't take it personally, because if I pull my hand off the wheel, it's either you or me. So I know what you're saying. You're reaching over to your wife now. I'm not driving by that kid again. Well, recently, I actually returned to the mountain. One of my first loves, snowboarding. It was the first time since my accident. 17 years since the last time I was on the mountain, and it felt in that moment I was taking command of my life again. I was putting figurative wheels underneath me so I could take control again. It was an invigorating experience. I felt free, in control. I also felt guided all at once by the guides behind me. It was the first time in 17 years that I experienced the rush, being on edge, pushing the limits. It was the feeling that I missed, not snowboarding itself. You see, it's moments like these that I'm reminded that what life does to you in the long run will depend on what life finds within you. We can change any situation by changing our attitude to mind. Our attitude is the key to transforming any situation. It's not the circumstances that life hands us, but what we bring to life in our spirit that truly matters. No one's handed a life worth living for. We've got to create it. Throughout history, all those who have led fulfilling lives have actively shaped them themselves. While some may succumb to despair, others harness their inner strength, using adversity to live purposefully and joyfully. Living a fulfilled life may be challenging, but it is our response to adversity that defines the experience itself. I've been asked, especially from my friends in the paralysis community, how did you get back to living a full life again? My answer, I changed my approach. Instead of drowning in self-pity, I embraced support from others. I allowed them to steer me back on track, to be my guiding force until I was ready. And then when the moment arrived, I took control again, steering my own course. The sense of autonomy that it gave me was exhilarating, like soaring through the skies. Recently, the joy of life has almost been as vivid as it ever has been with my daughter. Being a girl dad, I cherish this role so deeply. See, there's times where I'm guiding her.
Is that fun?
And then there's times she takes the lead and she guides herself. But sometimes,
First ride on Daddy's lap?
and sometimes it feels like those moments, we're both independently steering and we're side by side together. And wouldn't you find this to be a bit symbolic that many people in the paralysis community use wheelchairs as their mode of transportation? They do hold the reins to their own life. The perspective matters though. A wheelchair can either be seen as the limitation or as the vessel that carries you towards your goals. Living is an action, often beginning in the mind, and it will never be enough for any of us to just have a life. We've got to create a life with purpose worth living for. And after a life-altering injury like myself, you can find burdensome in this injury. But the key to shedding this feeling is to engage with life once again. If you long to regain a bit of your former self, consider that isolating yourself at home may seem to ease the burden on your family. But this isn't what you truly desire. Instead, take a step back and let go of control. Re-enter the flow of life. Your engagement isn't a burden, it's a return to life worth embracing by all. Begin by letting go, symbolically and literally, as one would with a self-driving car. Remember, life's merit isn't about the cards we're dealt, but in playing them well, whatever they might be. So as we wrap up, you might ponder the link between transportation and life. It's all about your adaptability, how you shift your transportation mode to navigate life's challenges, making our and your journey smoother. Tonight, we've played with transportation puns already, but the core message is about making life more accessible to ourselves. Reflect on this. Does life need you to steer firmly, guide freely, or follow the tracks laid before you? My journey, especially towards fatherhood, illustrates this. The more I fixated on the goal, the tighter I gripped the wheel. It was only when I released control, letting life unfold, that I truly moved forward. So let this be a lesson for all of us, that if we change our mode of transportation, we create easier access to life's pleasures, making the journey more enjoyable and helping us rediscover life's beauty. Tonight presents an opportunity for all of us to spark change together. We stand on the threshold of progress, ready to push forward. This is our moment to advocate, to come together, to raise funds, and to shift perceptions of what it truly means to live. This transportation is rooted in support, guidance, and at times a firm hand on the wheel. Tracks beneath us or wings unfurled. You see, next month, I'll have the honor of representing the foundation and the Perfect Step in the broader paralysis community in Washington, D.C. Alongside a teammate at TPS, we've been invited to present our case in front of Congress, advocating for reform that addresses the fundamental needs for the disability community. And there'll be some people that were there advocating for the disability and paralysis community. There's people that might question the power of one voice, but it's the initial push of one that gathers the collective strength of many, demanding visibility and consideration. And as I reflect on this journey of transportation, I'm drawn to the path of advocacy. It's here in the pursuit of change that I see the next chapter of my life unfolding. It's a step towards a world where the communities we advocate for enjoy improved lives. Together tonight, we're moving in that direction. So who's gonna take the lead role tonight? Who's gonna be the star of the show to create change? Who will be the protagonist? And who will be the supporting cast? Every role needs to be filled in this movie. We all matter, all 1,000 of us. The question is, what role will you take tonight? So this movie ends like another Hollywood story, a story worth telling. Remember this: planes cannot take off without resistance. Maybe those challenges you continue to feel in life that are pushing back on you and providing resistance are a telltale sign that you are exactly where you should be. It's what you need to take off to get lift, to soar, to fly, to live again. Nobody ever said life would be easy, but they said it could be sweet. So if you choose to see the beauty in the midst of the struggle, that likely can be you. I want to close with this paragraph out of an excerpt of a book, the book called Options, written by Gary Corbett in 1980. And he wrote this segment about the spinal cord injury community. And I want you to know this: the Be Perfect Foundation does not just represent the spinal cord injury community as much as we do the paralysis community as a whole. But with somebody that lives with spinal cord injury, this really resonated with me. And I wanted to share it with you, and it reads like this. Once a person so severely injured that they suffered motor paralysis and the loss of many body functions more normally taken for granted. They experienced catastrophic disruption of personality, were extremely fearful of future relationships with family and friends, and had no means of support. The new world viewed from the wheelchair was bewildering, but one dilemma was obvious: to cope or not to cope. To cope meant to work and play and live and love as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Not coping meant refusing responsibility for personal health and welfare, to allow physical and psychological complications, to bankrupt rehabilitation. We are the spinal cord injured. There are hundreds of thousands of us in America. We come from all races, places, ages, occupations, educations, and income brackets. We're all badly hurt, and many of us don't know what to do about living this way. But the world is full of injuries of people like us who have coped, who are glad they are coping, and who give to human race in full measure what they take. So this is where we uncover the real essence of reigniting our lives. The key lies in motion, moving forward. It starts with reevaluating our psychological mode of transportation towards our goals. Are we steering ourselves, following a predetermined path, or embracing freedom? Advancing towards the life we desire involves shifting our mindset to appreciate the journey and focusing on our blessings rather than our lacks. So as Confucius might say, through I paraphrase, it does not matter how slowly you go, so long as you do not stop. I'm committed to this journey, if every 1,000 of you in this room are too. And I challenge you to discover the mode of transportation that resonates with your current life phase. And I urge you at the very least to take a step forward, much like you've urged me to the last 17 years, and for some of you, for all 34 years of my life. You dared me to move, and now I dare you to do the same.